Good morning. June 21st, 2008, first day of summer. I'm just catching the sunrise on this Backyard Professor video series. Welcome to the Backyard Professor videos. I'm Kerry Schertz, the Backyard Professor. Perfect way to start the day, isn't it? Getting a good early start. I'm going to talk about Isaiah in the Book of Mormon today. It's going to be an interesting subject. I've had folks ask me about it, and I've been doing a little bit of reading here and there, and I've got some what I consider to be very interesting things to discuss with you about the Book of Mormon and Isaiah 48. So enjoy the sunrise with me real quick for a minute, and we'll hop on. I'm going to share the Isaiah 48 problem about the Book of Mormon, supposedly. Supposedly it has a problem. Got some good scholarship and ideas that I'm going to share with you. There's that entire hillside of daisies. It just goes all the way across and around. That's really quite lovely. The Isaiah problem in the Book of Mormon. The idea is that Isaiah didn't write the entire 66 chapters in his book. Later chapters, namely chapters 40 through 66, belong to a later time after the Jews got back from Babylon. And so the Book of Mormon, Nephi prophet, could not have had access to those chapters, which he quotes almost at length. Chapters 48 and 49, among others, of Isaiah in his book, of his own prophecies. Sidney B. Sperry Farms has done a wonderful job of putting together many dozens of his articles on the Book of Mormon in the Journal of Book of Mormon Studies. This is volume 4, number 1 for 1995. In Sperry's analysis of the Isaiah problem, he says, Professor Andrew B. Davidson pointed out many years ago, for nearly 25 centuries, no one even dreamt of doubting that Isaiah, the son of Amos, who lived in the 8th century B.C., was the author of the whole book that goes under his name. That is to say, the literary unity of Isaiah was not doubted until comparatively recent times. There's no evidence that the ancients who lived a few hundred years after Isaiah's time knew of any problem in connection with the great prophet's writings. The Greek translator of Isaiah, whose work is part of the Greek Bible, the Septuagint, probably made his translation about 200 BC, but it betrays no sign that the 66 chapters of the book are not all of Isaiah's work. Jesus ben Sirach, in the Apocrypha Ecclesiastes, chapter 48, verses 20 through 25, he wrote about 180 BC. He cited Isaiah as one of the great characters of Hebrew antiquity and quoted enough from the prophecy to indicate that by the beginning of the 2nd century BC, it had reached the form in which we now know it. And of course now we have the Dead Sea Scrolls, also the great Isaiah scroll, and it was pretty much intact also. And that dates approximately to 100 BC, so the first doubt concerning Isaiah's literary unity, according to Sidney B. Sperry, was Ibn ben Ezra, who lived in the 10th century A.D., and not again until in the 18th century, when the critical disintegration of the book of Isaiah began. Johann B. Kopp, in the year 1780, expressed doubt as to the genuineness of Isaiah chapter 50, and in 1789, Johann C. Duderlein threw suspicion on the Isaianic origins of Isaiah 40 through 66. So this is the beginning of the Isaiah problem as the modern scholars have brought it out. So, basically, to break it down into a complete nutshell, if you accept the divine authenticity of the Book of Mormon, then there is no Isaiah problem. And if you don't accept the divine authenticity of the Book of Mormon, then there is an Isaiah problem. This Isaiah issue is a reaction against prophecy. The scholars do not believe that Isaiah could see 100 or 200 years into the future and perfectly describe and name Cyrus or some of the other incidents that they have detailed in this Isaiah issue. So what I want to do is I want to take a closer look at an argument that was made quite a few years ago, and this argument has recently been written about as of last year and described and discussed by another scholar that I want to share with you also. This is out of Hugh Nibley's book, Since Cumorah, page 112 is the one I'm on right now. Nibley's analysis of this Isaiah issue is utterly fascinating, and I don't think enough people know about this, and I think they ought to, because I shouldn't say a new analysis, I'll say within the last 50 years, within my lifetime, an analysis of how Isaiah came to be has become extremely instructive because it's the same nature of the way the Book of Mormon came to be. And this actually could hold the answer for the Isaiah issue. If these later chapters, chapters 40 through 66, were written after Lehi left, then they couldn't have very well been on the brass plates. John W. Welch, another LDS scholar that I'll explore a little with you, has noted that the terminus date for Isaiah to be on the brass plates that Lehi sent his sons back to Jerusalem to gather is going to be about 600 BC. By that time, Isaiah should have taken its shape. And he's got some good materials on that also. Not long ago, an eminent Protestant journal noted that the Book of Mormon was generously sprinkled with passages lifted bodily from the King James Version. That is the equivalent of accusing the New Testament of being generously sprinkled with passages lifted bodily from the Septuagint, the Greek Old Testament. Whenever the scriptures are quoted, they are, whether it's from the Bible or elsewhere, it is always in some accepted human version. So far as can be determined, it has been a very long time since anyone has seen the text, that is, the original documents of the Old Testament, or the New Testament. Even more shocking, it would seem that the verses are always delivered in the language of the person being addressed, no matter what the original language of the particular scriptures may have been. It is always the audience that determines what language God speaks to men. Now that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? God is not going to come down and speak in Hebrew to Joseph Smith. That wouldn't help Joseph Smith at all. He speaks in English. Yes. Whereas in the old Hebrew prophets, he probably spoke in either Aramaic or Hebrew. Yes.